I believe that everyone should be actively trying to gain or at least maintain muscle mass. And that's a view of mine that has nothing to do with aesthetics and everything to do with health.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the How to Fitness podcast with me, Michael Ujoa.
And me, Kate Lyman.
Today, we're back with a deep dive from Kate Lyman. Kate, I'm excited for today.
Me too. Well, first, how are you? It's been a minute.
It's been a little minute since we've recorded together. I've had a few nights of great sleep. I know this will never last because my optimism is very low with my toddler's sleep, but I've had a few good nights sleep, so I actually feel really good today.
That you passed it to me though, because we've had some nights of bad sleep, and not just toddler has been up a lot. Our neighbors. Oh gosh, what was it? Saturday night. Our neighbors threw a party.
I love how you're whispering as if no one's listening to this conversation.
No, I'm sick, angry. Our neighbors threw a party that was so loud. It was like shaking our house.
Wow. Okay.
And they went till 4 a.m.
I was going to say, I imagine a Mexican house party goes on quite a long time, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kenny and I were livid. We were just like fuming in our bedroom. And eventually, like, we texted the owner of our house, like, hey, can you talk to the neighbors? Like, this is insane. And then we're out there listening. We're like, wait, we hear him there. And the owner of our house was over at the neighbors. And Kenny went over and was like, guys, please. Like, he wasn't angry. He was like, please, like, we need to sleep. It was like 3 a.m. And they went quiet for like 20 minutes, but they were all hammered. So, you can't have a bunch of drunk people get quiet for that long.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the owner was at the party because that would have been the best.
No, he was.
Oh, he was just partying.
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was at the party. He answered the door when Kenny went over there. And we were like, what? You? Yeah, the owner of our house was at the party.
That is amazing. Okay.
Anyway, so at least like some levity there because it was awful. And so I slept like 4:30 to 6 because Milo was up at 6.
That's brutal. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. But it's like we just moved into this place in June and this is the first time this has happened. So I hope it's like a once a year thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love it. But nothing's worse than being like, oh no, we moved next to partiers.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed.
We moved to the house we're in now because when we had Jude, our first kid, the flat above us was a student flat. And it just wasn't the one. So we were out of there. But yeah, hopefully since June, you've had a few months. You should be fine. I'm sure it's just like
I know.
occasional.
I think so. And it's like, it's Mexican Independence Day weekend. So it's like, okay, well, that's fair.
Okay. We'll let him off.
Don't do it again.
Yeah.
Well, I went to my friends yesterday. I was like, hey guys, like I don't want to be the annoying foreigner to complain about something that's very cultural, but like, what can my etiquette be? Can I say stop? And they're like, no.
Write it
just
out.
Sleep through it.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I can't. Anyway,
Eesh.
aside from that, my weekend was fantastic. But
glad.
that is why I'm like a little tired. And the toddler. The toddler was obviously up a ton when the party was happening. But
yeah. Okay.
we persist.
We keep going. I'm sorry, Kate. Well, we're gonna have a great episode today. I wasn't at the party, so you can't hate me.
I know.
We will still get a great episode in today. Don't worry.
We will, and we only have 2 more episodes. This one and one more deep dive from you for this season, and then we're on a break until the new year, that's gone by fast. Season 3 almost done.
We've been doing this a long time, Kate.
I know. It's wild.
It's very cool. And so this is probably a perfect point to jump in here and ask anyone listening, please leave us a review, share a word about the podcast. So we don't have sponsors, as you can tell, on this podcast because we like to kind of just keep it really authentic and we don't like to tie ourselves to any brands we like to be impartial with all the advice that we give. So all the shares, all the likes, all the reviews really help to spread the word of the podcast. So if you're on your phone now listening to this or on a computer, whatever, please give us a review. You will be our best friend if you do it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Please and thank you.
Cool. What are we doing today, Kate?
Yeah, we're going to talk about protein and that's exciting.
Always.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like bread and butter of our jobs, right? That's all we talk about, protein.
It's all we talk about. You're going to get a little bit of everything in this episode. So we're going to talk about protein today, and we're going to talk about our protein needs, of course, and we're going to talk about busting some protein myths. But I really wanted to tackle this episode specifically because of the current cultural context and the relevancy of protein in this year of our Lord 2025, where you can't even open social media or walk through a grocery store without being bombarded by the word protein. And Michael, I've given you nothing about what this, I mean, you know, this episode's about protein, but like, what would you want out of this episode?
I mean, I'm put on the spot here. What I would say is kind of to give everyone the general recommendations of what we should be aiming for. And then also what's optimal, but what's realistic and helpful as well. Because I think a lot of coaches, they get kind of stuck in the research of like, this is what's optimal and everyone needs to aim for this. Whereas actually is the everyday person going to be needing to be striving for that? And then maybe just like a little bit about the misconceptions of protein intake. And am I on the right track?
Love it. Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot. And one of the reasons I wanted to ask, I was like, I've got to sort through this as I start talking because I have too much. And I always just kind of word vomit my ideas when I start writing out a podcast script to Kenny. And so many times he's like, you would go that direction. I'm like, oh gosh. Is that said?
I'm so predictable.
Is that said encouragingly or like disparagingly? I still don't know. So
how have we not done a deep dive into protein yet as well? That's what I want to know.
I think I've been waiting for this moment.
Okay, I like it.
The
stars have aligned and here we are.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's do it. Let's get into it.
I've got my tea. I'm ready, Kate. Hit me.
Good. I think it feels safe to say that every macronutrient seems to get its turn in the spotlight, or maybe like as the villain. So if we're thinking back to recent decades, we think the 80s and 90s, we can think of fat as the bad guy, right? Low fat everything. People were just slamming low fat cottage cheese, which is horrible to think about.
So awful.
Disgusting. Yeah. Then, 90s, early 2000s, carbs took the hit. Those are the Atkins days and the paleo days. And now here we are and that stuff hasn't gone away. Let me make that clear. But here we are in 2025 and protein is having its moment. Protein is having a moment. You can't go anywhere without hearing about protein. But the twist is that unlike carbs or fats, protein has never been demonized and it's always carried this kind of like masculine, powerful aura. We think of bodybuilders and gym bros and steak commercials. And do you ever remember these ads, these commercials about those Hungry Man frozen dinners?
No, maybe this is like a US thing. No,
it might be. It actually sounds like it. But that kept coming up in my head. I actually should have looked one up. That kept coming up in my head as I was thinking through this. Like there were these commercials and there'd be these men doing manly stuff and they'd be like, what'd you have for dinner last night? And I remember one where a guy was like, some chicken with a spritz of lemon, and he like blows away in the wind of the storm. The other guy's like, I ate meat, and he like doesn't blow away in the storm. And that's
I've just looked at
synopsis of it,
pictures.
But I'll have to look.
I've looked at pictures of the advert and I can imagine that's exactly what's said in the advert.
Yes, you got it. You've got it. Hungry Man, frozen meals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does feel like protein has been kind of this safe macronutrient. I think that's fair to say, like the one that diet culture has left untouched. So that's what I'm saying. Like I've been waiting for it to talk about the cultural moment of protein as well as all the stuff we're going to talk about with our needs and everything, because what happens when that nutrient becomes an obsession? Like how much are what we're seeing right now with the proteinification of everything is just another manifestation of diet culture. That's one of the things I want to talk about today. I don't have an answer. We're going to talk through it. I'm so curious to hear your opinions because we're seeing protein everywhere, and it's not just like chicken and protein shakes. It's high protein Snickers and high protein Cheerios and protein mac and cheese. And I didn't know this till I started this episode, but Starbucks has a protein cold foam.
Does it? I've never seen this before. No.
No, I didn't know that either. So it feels like we can say like the grocery store aisles are plastered with high protein the way they once were low fat or low carb. And this marketing poses these products as healthier and better, but it's not necessarily always the case. So there is this company, Cargill, who does big reports over the agricultural and like food industry trends and what people are eating in the US. And so they have a 2025 protein profiles. Actually, I got a lot out of here. It's like, oh, wow, that's everything I need. In this protein profile, it said 61% of Americans have increased their protein intake in the last year, up from just 48% in years prior. And they outline how food companies are currently filing protein-related patents left and right, like rolling out new products every single week. Consumers are obviously buying in because, this is my take, they say this, like high protein feels a bit virtuous, like we're making a smarter choice even if we're eating protein chips. Or protein candy. Do you know protein candy is a real thing? I don't have access to a lot of these products. And I'm actually curious, you in the UK, is everything proteinified there as well now?
It is. I don't think I've seen protein candy, but maybe it's just because I've switched off to it because I'm maybe slightly more aware of how ridiculous it is. Or a lot of the time where especially so I can't eat dairy, so I have to aim for a lot of like plant-based yogurts and stuff. And the amount of times they'll be like, high protein yogurt, and I look at the packet and it's like hardly any protein in it.
It's like 4 grams.
Yeah. It's like, this is not high protein. So I'm assuming kind of regulations around like what they can say are pretty lenient, you know?
I didn't look that up explicitly, but I actually don't know. I wonder if it's off percent daily value.
Yeah, potentially.
No, I don't think it would be, because then how are they? I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I'll add it to the show notes.
Yeah,
I didn't think of that.
It's just because the amount of times that's happened. Now they're starting to bring out some good like plant-based, some vegan options that are really high. There's some that I have, not an advert, as I mentioned at the start, but like the Alpro yogurt's like 15 grams for a plant-based yogurt.
Oh, that's
it's
pretty good.
Solid.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yes, say to the untrained eye, when you're lactose intolerant, you need to go get a plant-based yogurt. How are you supposed to know? It all says high protein, 4 grams. Versus 15. Like, you got to look at the label and blah, blah, blah. But like, it is confusing and it is overwhelming. Michael, I gave you a little section to read from that Cargill report. If you can read that for me, please.
I got given homework by Kate. I'm very excited. So do you just want me to read it out, right?
Yeah, please.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. So social media and websites are the second highest influence on consumers' approach to eating, second only to family members. 52% of consumers have tried a new food item after seeing it on social media, with platforms like TikTok and Instagram creating social subcultures of protein, such as carnivore diets, high-protein regimens for fitness, and fusion-inspired culinary exploration.
Yeah. Not surprising, right?
No.
Social media is the second biggest factor in why we're making these high protein choices.
Yeah.
And I had to take a moment and share some business insight, okay? Because it'd be really weird if I didn't share this. But I've had Caitlin Nutrition for 10 years, right? A little over 8 years ago, I started blogging every week. So I have blogged every week for 8 years. I have a lot of blogs, and blogs are a main driver, or blog posts are a main driver of how I get traffic to my website. My whole team, like our team of coaches, write them, and we get about 30,000 readers a month on our blog, which is cool.
Which is amazing.
If we when we look at the stats though, 25,000 of them always come from protein related articles.
Do they? That's really interesting.
25,000 out of 30. And this is a thing that we recognize in my team as a reality and kind of despise, because we write about nutrition ADHD. We write about menopause needs. We write about GLP-1s. We write about breaking down new research.
That's really boring, Kate.
And
I want to know about protein.
I know, and we still do it. And when we quarterly get together as a team, we're like, well, we want to write about all this, but let's make room for the protein as well. And it's funny because I didn't start writing all these articles for clicks. I write them because I create what makes sense for our clients. Like, we write what we want our clients to have, and we know protein's important. So it's like this funny double-edged sword where it's like, cool, I need this stuff because this is what I am sending to my clients. And also, another protein article?
Well, I will say as well, okay, blogging that consistently for 8 years, I take my hat off to you. I would if I could take my hat off without my headphones falling off. But honestly, that's a long time to be blogging. Good work.
It is. I mean, my team and I write them. Like, it's not just me, but it is. I do edit them all.
You haven't quite outsourced to AI Kate yet for writing.
No, never. AI will not touch our blog.
It's Kate with the AI in the middle of it. That was there's an idea for that, Kate. Run with it. Yeah.
I mean, I think it speaks more to my need to write long form, an inability to keep it short on social media. So that's
so difficult, isn't it? Because I really like long form content too. Like, I love writing. I've contributed to like lots of magazine articles, and I do blogging way more inconsistently than Kate does. But I really enjoy it. But it's so much more work. And it gets less traction now because people have very short attention spans. So it's really difficult at finding a balance of, I like doing this, but how worth it is it compared to creating shorter form content, you know?
Right. Right. It's hard to balance. And I had to throw that out there, just saying like, look, I'm not impervious to this protein trend. Like, to an extent, a lot of my business runs
Are you
on
driving the protein trend, Kate, with the amount of people that are coming to your website?
Maybe I feel that I'm part of it, and I hope I can do it justice.
Okay.
So today I want to
Kate's
get
only
into our
source
protein
today
needs.
is katelymannutrition.com.
No, but I did use it as a source once.
Did you?
And I was like, is this okay? I want to get into our protein needs. I want to help clarify some misconceptions around protein. I want to dig into what the science says because we have a lot of it. And it's real. It's like fun science here. But I also want us to go through this episode asking ourselves if this current love of protein is just another diet fad dressed up in a different package, or because of the nature of protein, if it's actually a good thing. Off the bat, Michael, what are your thoughts here? Because I think it's like, okay, we had other diet trends, low fat, low carb, and we know that there's not merit to those, right? We know we need dietary fats. We know carbs aren't inherently bad, but here we have this high protein trend and we're like, but actually protein is great. So it's kind of like, it leaves me being like, I don't really know what I think.
It's really hard to approach it, isn't it? And I always like to approach it in a way of saying like, this is really cool and really important. However, a lot of people overplay its importance at the same time. I think those two things can exist at the same time, and they do, especially on social media. So yeah, I tend to, with a lot of the clients I work with, aim for like the lower end of the recommendations just because it allows more diet flexibility and enjoyment. And once again, I think that's often lost with coaches when they're trying to push people to these super high numbers. I've had some people come to me with like insane high protein goals from coaches they're working with, and it's just so obscene that even professional athletes don't need this amount of protein. So asking your everyday person that goes to the gym like 2-3 times a week to be pushing like 200 grams of protein, it's like, what are we doing?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's madness.
Right. And I think this is annoying. Nuance. It's so like I'm annoyed with myself, but that's what it is, right? It's like there is good in this trend if it brings the importance of protein certain ways to the forefront of our mind, and there is overdoing it. Like both exist, and I'm not sure as much where the diet culture plays a role, if it does, how much, etc. But it's something I feel acutely aware of, but I can't like totally wrap my mind around it. I don't know. I'm like, do I go into this? Like it's not in a vacuum. I think that the rise of GLP-1s has shifted this focus even more, because lower appetite protein needs become even more important. Like I think that is part of it. And if you think of in the States, there's a large percentage of people on these medications. It does become relevant. It's like that is important too. So anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
Current cultural zeitgeist.
No, it's true. I think GLP-1s has probably shifted every aspect of the fitness industry. For that. Same with strength training. Like there's I got asked about this the other day, and it's for the exact reason. Like, why is strength training on the rise? And like, I think probably GLP-1s. Like everyone's saying, you're going to lose muscle mass, you have to do strength training. I think that's pushing a lot of people into it that maybe wouldn't have considered it before.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there. Save that for season 4. Let's talk about what we actually need. Okay, so here's the thing. We cannot deny that protein is important. It is essential. We literally cannot survive without protein. So every cell in our body needs protein. Proteins are made up of amino acids, and those amino acids are the building blocks of muscle and enzymes and hormones and even neurotransmitters that affect our mood and our mental health. But does that mean we need to be eating protein candy and drinking protein water? No, not necessarily. I want to make it clear that like my criticism of this absurd proteinification of everything around us does not translate to bashing protein, as you can tell by, my profession. And that's why this conversation is so interesting, honestly, because I'm pro protein. I don't know how you could be an evidence-based professional working in fitness or nutrition and not be, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've spoken about this, haven't we, before, in like with the rise of fiber becoming more popular, which is amazing. Please eat more fiber, everyone. Everyone's not eating enough of it. But it's this thing where it's like, well, no, this is more important than that. Therefore, that thing's not important. It's like, no, wait, that's important, but so is that thing. So can we not criticize the thing that's still really important?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just no one has nuance. It's like, this is great, or...
Well, it's because we live in a world of hot takes, right?
Yeah, we do.
It's like, no, not protein. It's fiber. Yeah. And okay, here's where I think there's some confusion. I want to talk about ideal protein intake. And I feel like a favorite talking point I hear a lot of times from dietitians or doctors is like, doctors say most Americans are already getting enough protein. Do you hear that in the UK, Michael?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, it's true to a point. We got to talk about the recommended dietary allowance. Is that what you were also using as in the UK as a standard?
Yeah. RDAs.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah.
RDAs. Okay. Good. So the recommended dietary allowance, or the RDA,
And RDI, recommended daily intake. So I flick between different countries' recommendations all the time.
Yes.
I start to lose track of like which one is
maybe
the one
you're
from the UK.
RDI and we're RDA.
Yeah,
it's the same. You get what we're
exactly.
saying. The RDA is 0.8 grams per kilograms of body weight per day. That works out to 0.36 grams per pound. So to put that into context, for a 150-pound person, that's 54 grams of protein a day. Now, we look at national survey data in the US, and it shows us the average protein intake of adults in the US is about 40 grams per 1,000 calories, which comes out to 60 to 90 grams per day. And that varies based on sex and age, because males typically consume more protein, and protein intake usually decreases with age because overall calorie intake.
And we're all
decreases,
eating
right?
hungry man meals as well. So
And
it just makes it really easy. Yeah.
Exactly. So the RDA is defined as the average daily dietary intake sufficient to meet the nutrient requirements of nearly all healthy individuals in a group. It's a very population-based statistic. And what's interesting is that the RDA for protein is based on analysis of nitrogen balance studies. So it's about the amount of protein needed to avoid a negative nitrogen balance. What I mean by that is that this RDA is not tied to a health outcome. It's more about preventing deficiency. And I think that is really important. I think that gets overlooked because sometimes people say, you don't need these higher intakes. The RDA is sufficient. It is sufficient for preventing negative things happening from not eating enough protein. It is not necessarily the amount to thrive or support muscle maintenance as we age or to maximize performance. Those are different things. And if you go to any government website and you read about the RDA, it will say, here's the RDA, and this RDA is insufficient for growing children, pregnant or lactating women, those who engage in intense exercise, the elderly. So there are a lot of exceptions. RDA, not incorrect, not bad. It's just not the same thing as optimal protein intake. What I feel is really important to recognize is the RDA is not adequate for anyone wanting to maximize muscle gain or muscle retention. It's also inadequate for older adults who are at risk of muscle loss. And here's where my personal opinion gets very strong. I believe that everyone should be actively trying to gain or at least maintain muscle mass. And that's a view of mine that has nothing to do with aesthetics and everything to do with health and longevity. Like, our muscle mass is protective. It is how we maintain protection from osteoporosis and other disease. It's how we stay functional and independent through old age. So while it's not accurate to say that everyone needs to like double or triple their intake, it's also not really accurate to say that RDA is sufficient for all situations. Imagine this, the truth is more nuanced. So when we think in that context, we can recognize that protein needs for many are probably a little bit higher. I'm going to share some numbers with you here. I could not think of a better way to do this because I understand that me reading out numbers is going to feel really confusing and annoying. I made a chart. I will put the chart in the YouTube and I will see if we can put the chart in the show notes. I have a chart here. And I'm going to tell you that there's different protein suggestions based on lots of evidence. There's different intake recommendations for the general population versus those for maximizing muscle growth versus those eating in a calorie deficit versus those needing to maximize athletic performance. Okay. And what is similar in all of these is that they are higher than the RDA. So I'm going to read these out in grams per pound. Sorry. That's just my
Shocking.
US bias
Shocking.
showing out. But
sorry, everyone in the UK, get a calculator up on your phone that converts from pounds to kilo because we have no idea what's going on.
Okay, backlash. You guys use stone. Come on.
Yeah, we do.
You use stone.
So you
stone
say that.
Is like nothing.
I don't, and I haven't since. Actually, I don't think I ever really do. I always use kilo, like I use kilograms. Okay. And that table that Kate's talking about now, she has put it nicely down for kilograms too. So
I've put it in kilos, I've put it in grams, and then I've put an example with 150-pound person, 68-kilo person, which is just a number that seemed nice and round and has no significance. So the RDA would be 0.36 grams per pound or 54 grams for this 150-pound, 68-kilo person. For the general population, 0.54 to 0.73 grams per pound would put this person at about 82 to 109 grams for their weight. That is a calculation you use for your clients, I believe. Right, Michael? Because I asked you ahead of time. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. So it's for the UK folk, that's 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of
Yeah.
body weight, and yeah, that
Yes.
tends what tends to be what I go for.
For those maximizing muscle growth or in a calorie deficit, or for those wanting to maximize athletic performance, the range goes up a little bit higher from about 0.73 to 1 gram per pound. There's a little variation. You can look in the chart. I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers, but that brings that intake to about like 109 to 150 grams. That's obviously a lot higher. And here's the thing, this is where individual preference and individual eating patterns absolutely matter. I think I want the takeaway here to be RDA is insufficient. There are other populations who will benefit from higher protein intake, and that's anyone looking to build or maintain muscle mass. Older adults fall in this category. It's for those in a dieting phase, so those eating in a calorie deficit because you're more prone to muscle loss, and for those maximizing athletic performance. There's variability. Don't get caught up in these numbers, but I want the takeaway to be there are situations in which higher protein intake is more important, and even that general population number is higher than the RDA. In fact, it's about double the RDA.
I think it's sorry if you're going to say this as well, Kate. Feel free to tell me to shut up if you're about to go into this in more depth. With these weights as well, it's always lean body weight as well, because I'll have a lot of people that come to me who are in larger bodies, for example, and they'll be like, oh, the calculation is 1.2 to 1.6 times their body weight in kilograms. But if they're someone who's holding a lot more body fat, that number can be insanely high. And you don't need to be aiming for a ridiculous number. But then the issue here is that most people don't know their lean body weight, which is what this should be calculated from.
Actually, I am going to talk on that.
Sorry, Kate.
I have no, you're fine. No, you're fine.
Okay.
I'm going to get to it in a second, though. Okay. So when I work with my clients, I go off of the ISSN, or the International Society of Sports Nutrition position stand. That's just like always been my go-to. The range is that 0.73 to 1 gram per pound, but I also take into account the person, right? And that's something I feel like I need to make clear so often. If you're eating minimal protein a day, so you're not even thinking about it, and you're getting 40 to 50 grams a day, a goal of 105 grams, aka doubling your intake, is unrealistic, probably feels very discouraging. So the goal becomes increase intake in a way that feels sustainable and doable, and worry less about these calculations and numbers and more about food choices. Like, that is the goal. Now, here's what I don't have time to get into as much today, but I am going to send a resource in the show notes that is from my own website. But let me tell you, there are some more.
I love this so much.
Listen.
Referenced yourself.
There's some more recently updated findings on protein recommendations. We previously thought that anywhere in these ranges meant the same outcome. You get the same muscle building and maintenance benefit and anywhere in that 0.73 to 1 gram per pound range. But a more recent analysis showed that more protein actually leads to more muscle gain, and those benefits do taper off at a point, but there are differences in that range. The differences are not extreme. But our team, my KLN team, we do a monthly power hour where we like do a deep dive. It's like a much nerdier version of the podcast. We do a really deep dive into a specific topic. And it was a few months ago that we went really deep into this topic of updated protein recommendations and that difference across the range. And in the show notes, I am going to share an article that Kenny wrote on the Power Hour, because he led us in that Power Hour, that walks through these updated findings. And it also discusses calculating protein needs more specifically using fat-free mass. So that's what you talked about, Michael. But there's like a lot of context there. So I wanted someone to be able, if they're interested in calculating with fat-free mass, I want you to be able to read it all instead of me trying to read numbers out to you. And I don't want to get into it anymore here, because I don't even know if you can keep up with me reading numbers. I get that it's kind of confusing. Anyway, let's move on. Proteins are made of amino acids, and out of the 20 amino acids, 9 are considered essential. So that means our bodies cannot make them. We have to get them from food. And animal proteins generally contain all 9 in higher quality and in the right quantity or in the right ratios, which makes them exceptionally effective for muscle protein synthesis. That is what we call a complete protein. On the other hand, plant proteins are often labeled as incomplete proteins. It's not a bad thing. It's just a term, because most of those single sources are lower in one or more of the essential amino acids. So that does not translate to plant-based eaters are at a disadvantage, because if you eat a variety of plant proteins, beans and rice, tofu and quinoa, you easily cover all of these essential amino acids. So the bottom line here is the total amount of protein you eat is most important, and diversity in both animal and plant sources will get you there if you're making intentional food choices. And by intentional, I mean you're thinking about eating variety in your diet.
I've seen this a lot recently of especially carnivore bros being like, oh, the plant-based protein is inefficient. You can't build muscle effectively compared to eating loads of meat. And it's just nonsense, you know? Like if you have a well-planned plant-based diet, it is just as effective at building muscle as one that is all animal products. Not that I'd recommend that, but it's one of those kind of annoying things that the carnivore crowd will plug, and it's horse crap, basically. If you look at the research, they're just not right.
It's just not right at all. And the thing I tell my plant-based clients or friends is like, it does require a little more intention. Like you're not going to get all your needs without thinking about it. And that's just a reality, and it's not a bad thing. It's actually probably a really good thing. So when we're talking about protein, I know it's very easy to get caught up in the weeds. Like, how much per meal? Can I supplement with collagen? Which supplements are best? If I eat a meal with too much protein, can I not digest it at all? And I want to take you through a hierarchy that I think simplifies things a lot as to what matters most as far as our protein intake. So top priority when it comes to our protein intake is our total protein intake across the day. This is number one. This is the most important thing. We can focus on this and then like not really worry about the rest. And that goes back to those numbers we talked about earlier. The second thing is how you distribute protein through your meal. So it is a myth that you can only digest or only utilize 30 grams of protein at a time. It's like not accurate at all. And it's kind of this skewed version of this leucine trigger hypothesis that we don't need to get into whatsoever. But what we do need to know is that spreading protein intake throughout the day is going to be more ideal than eating all your protein at once. It's more ideal for muscle protein synthesis, but it's also more ideal for satiety and sustainability. Like, I just don't imagine anyone's like, yes, I feel good eating 100 grams of protein at one meal and none anywhere else.
Like, your poor digestive
right?
system if you were doing that. It's funny, isn't it? That's always my favorite thing when I start working with a new client who is on really low protein intake. When we start giving them the amount that they're supposed to be eating and spreading it out effectively throughout the day, they're like, oh my God, I don't feel hungry all of the time anymore.
Right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Right. And so I think it doesn't have to look like, okay, you have to have X grams per meal. It's like more than anything, we're aiming for more balanced meals across the day for the sake of satiety, right? Like that's what makes the biggest difference here. If you say you're eating a super high protein meal, your body isn't using 30 grams of protein and then like tossing the rest away. We can absorb and we can digest all amounts of protein. It's just that not all of that protein will go towards muscle building, essentially. Like if we're eating meals with tons of protein intake, some of that will go to other processes in the body. It's not a bad thing. It just is.
But we're supposed to only care about building muscle, Kate. That's the problem.
I know. It's exhausting. Finally, timing. Third thing in the hierarchy is timing, especially around your workouts. So here we get to the idea of this post-exercise anabolic window, or this fear-mongering around like, if you do not pound a protein shake within an hour of your workout, you're going to lose all your gains. Post-workout protein is beneficial. There's plenty of evidence to support that post-workout protein intake is important, that there is a window, but that window isn't that tight. I think a lot of this here comes down to personal preference and starting to make protein intake post-workout a habit within a few hours. Now that could be within 2 hours. It could even be within 3 to 5 hours. I have a bit more of a personal preference towards sooner, like that 2 hour mark, again, for the sake of satiety, not for the post-exercise anabolic window. After workouts, we're going to get hungry. It's good to eat, or else we're going to get way hungrier later in the day.
I love this topic for a very selfish reason. I did a little video of me like doing a workout and then hitting a timer. I had like a 10-minute timer to get back home to drink my protein shake. And there's a video of me like running across Edinburgh, all the different landmarks. Got home, missed it, blah, blah, blah. But it was like the first video of mine that like did quite well on social media, and I reached loads of people, and I was like, oh, hold on. And as the video like sparked me creating more social media content. So this topic is always close to my heart.
I really want to see that.
Yeah, we'll get a little video made up. It's very cool topic. Anyway, sorry.
No,
Kate,
I love that. So your point being, yeah, you don't have to run across town to get your protein.
Yeah. And anyone who lives in Edinburgh can see that it was the weirdest route I would have taken back to my flat. I was like back and forth all across the city. But it was good fun.
So yeah, you can utilize more than 30 grams of protein at a time. You don't have to smash a protein shake immediately post-workout. Spreading a protein intake across the day is most advantageous. And while we're here busting some myths, let's talk about eating too much protein. So there is a reality that there's some folks who can consume too much protein, and that's especially those with kidney disease. But outside of that population, there's just not really concerns over higher protein intake on impact on kidney function. Like even in trials that ramp up protein to extremely high levels, there have been no findings in adverse effects on kidney function or really any other health parameter. This is taken from one study that I have in the sources. Despite persistent belief to the contrary, we can find no evidence-based link between higher protein diets and renal disease or adverse bone health. And in fact, in some of these studies, they actually find that there are more benefits for bone density and lower risk of bone breaks. So I do not think it's fair to say that like the average individual has too high of a protein intake. I'm saying average individual. I'm not saying other people, but I'm actually speaking here about actual protein intake and not the mental obsession, which I do want to get to in a moment. I think the mental obsession is something different. But before we get to that, where does this leave us? Protein is essential. It supports muscle and satiety and recovery and even mental health, since those amino acids are building blocks for neurotransmitters. That's like one of my favorite facts about protein. The average American gets enough to prevent deficiency, but enough does not always translate to optimal. And that nuance is where the conversation really needs to live. Now let's talk about this. Did you think we're done? Because I have like a whole other section.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, this is the bit that I'm assuming Kenny was like, trust you to go here. This is what's coming, and I'm really excited for it. You lefty UK.
The cultural shift. We've got, actually, I said zeitgeist earlier, which I like hate myself for. I like read too much of the New Yorker. We've arrived here. We've arrived at the proteinification of everything. Protein has become this massive health halo, right? We've talked a lot about marketing on the podcast. You know, I love this topic because we are acutely aware of just how much marketing influences our food choices. So if you stick the word protein on a package and suddenly it feels like a better food choice, that is a health halo, right? Food companies know that. They're running with it. General Mills has filed 78 patents related to protein in just the last few years. And it's all like the same foods, just proteinified versions. Kraft Heinz actually revamped entire product lines just to put protein on the front of the packaging. Like the products didn't change. It just smacked protein on there. And there are retail shelves obviously loaded with proteinified versions of food that never needed protein in the first place. Looking at you, protein candy. When I was preparing for this podcast, I watched this news segment and it said that protein snacks are growing at 3 times the rate of any other snacks. And so companies are just really eager to invest. That's not the point. The point was this person talking on the news segment kept talking about all the functional benefits of protein, which was so funny because like,
what does that mean?
What does that mean? Food has functional benefits. It's like functional training. It's like, yes, okay.
Yeah.
We get that you're just saying a word to say
Buzzword.
a word.
Yeah. Buzzword. Yeah.
But like, this isn't just about the sales and the marketing, which, you know, I do love to talk about. There's a sociological layer here. And my take is that protein has always been tied to masculinity. It's been tied to strength and virility and muscle. And it's the one macronutrient that diet culture hasn't demonized, because culturally it's been coded as masculine. Mm-hmm. This is where Kenny was like, you would think that, but I think I'm right.
I think you are. I think it's legit. Yeah.
And this actually had me thinking of you, Michael. And when you have,
should I be worried?
No. And when you have a post or a reel that gets into the horrible, like alt-right manosphere, and people throw all these horrible insults at you, and half of them are calling you soy boy.
Yeah.
Like you get called soy boy, and soy boy is supposed to be an insult because eating soy is feminine?
Apparently so.
And eating meat like Ron Swanson is manly?
Yeah.
Have you watched Parks and Rec before?
I have. I've not watched all of it, but I've seen episodes of it, and it's great.
Yeah, Ron Swanson and his meat. He's like, because I'm a man.
Yeah. Makes me laugh because soy is actually a fantastic protein source.
Soy is it's like such a good protein source.
So good.
Soy. And I'm like truly a little too exhausted on the whole topic to get into the whole carnivore combo. I think we
Fair.
talked about carnivore in the ancestral eating,
Mm-hmm.
but the point being, like, there are these fringe diets and fringe movements directly tying protein intake with masculinity. Bodybuilders and really jacked dudes have like been the face of protein and protein powder for a long time. And I think that some of that cultural baggage makes protein feel like the safe thing to chase. And let me say, like, there is a big difference between eating more protein for health and these dietary patterns that have become someone's whole identity. Like those are two separate things we're talking about.
I don't know. Sorry if you don't know this, Kit, and I won't blame you if you don't. When someone takes steroids, their protein requirements can go up, right? That's a thing.
I don't know. That would make
Okay.
sense to me because you have more muscle mass.
I went to a nutrition talk many years ago when I first started coaching, and the guy, I won't say the guy's name actually because I think he's really problematic now. Surprise, surprise, fitness industry. And he gave like the tables of protein recommendations. Then he had assisted athletes at the bottom, and it was a lot higher. I need to look this up. I'm going to
please.
research
I'm
this
very
and we'll throw
interested.
it in the show notes if I find anything about it. But
I'm
I
very
wonder whether
interested in
that
that.
also, because so many people that are at the forefront of health in air quotes promotion and fitness are assisted, that their protein requirements are higher, therefore they're promoting higher protein intake. Anyway, there's probably
Assisted. What a euphemism.
I know, right? What a way to dampen the blow.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And that would make sense to me physiologically with more muscle mass, but then it also makes sense to me with protein being a whole identity thing, right?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think this feels so 2025 coded when we layer on like the role of celebrities and podcasters, many of whom have protein products to sell. This narrative of like importance of protein spreads even faster. And that's why we have high protein cereal and high protein bars and high protein everything. And I think it just gets a lot more amplified through this celebrity endorsement and influencer culture. I don't know if you saw if one of the Kardashians now has like a protein popcorn line.
I did. And it's really low in protein as well.
I'm sure because it's popcorn.
Yeah. Can you imagine how awful protein popcorn tastes?
I watched a few reviews of people like being like, yep, there's a powder on my tongue. And it's like, there's whey isolate on my tongue. I don't know if it's actually whey isolate. Don't.
Yeah, it's probably not. That'd be far too expensive to put
Yeah.
on. It might be. I'm not going to insult them. I take that back if it isn't whey isolate. But yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, where I think it's quite low in protein. Do you know what? I'm going to search this whilst you carry on
Yeah,
talking,
please let me
Kate.
know. I think we've been trained to see protein as a bit more virtuous, and adding protein to a meal feels like adding health, which it kind of is in a way, right? Like we talked about that. But fats and carbs still carry this baggage from like being vilified. And I think that just means when we see high protein on the front of a package, we don't just think like, oh, that's more protein. We think, oh, that might be better for me. As we've talked about.
Okay, I take it back. It's milk protein isolate. It is.
Oh, okay. But how much?
I take it back. There's a whopping 7 grams in a bag of popcorn, which
In a
is not
bag?
nothing.
It's not nothing. But you'd probably get
It's-
4 from normal popcorn. 3, 4?
Yeah, probably. Classic. Jumping on the bandwagon. That's not like the Kardashians. Oh, I don't want to sound like a dick doing this. I'm gonna stop. We'll stop talking about popcorn.
Here's the here, let's sum it up with this. Food that's high in protein, with my air quotes, might not actually be that consequential for your overall protein intake. That's how we'll sum it up. And back in the pre-COVID days, I did a lot of like corporate wellness or corporate nutrition talks and stuff. And there's always a comparison I use with a Snickers and a Go Macro bar. It's just like one of these health bars. And on the package, it says high protein. It's called Protein Paradise. And when you compare the two, and you're going to see this if you're watching, you put the two next to each other, their caloric content is basically equal. They have the same amount of fat, basically the same amount of carbohydrates. The Snickers has 4 grams of protein. That's really nothing, right? Like, but it's just not consequential. But this Go Macro bar, high protein Paradise has 11 grams. Like, that's not that consequential. I'm not saying it's nothing, but if you look at this in the grocery store, you're like, I need more protein. And you pick this up because it says high protein and it's called Protein Paradise. You're probably going to think it's more consequential towards your overall protein intake. That's 7 grams more than a Snickers. You can have a Snickers and Khloe Kardashian's cloud protein and make up the same amount.
I thought we were going to stop taking the mickey out of them. Let's not.
Sorry.
Well, What would you say, Kate? Here's a question actually. What would you say should qualify as a high protein snack? How much protein would be for you high protein?
I think it depends on the product, but I feel like there should also be a percent, maybe like 25% of total calories.
I like that.
I just kind of threw that number out there. I'd have to do some calculations.
I'm trying to do the calculations in my head because usually like protein shake around like 200. That's quite high, 25 grams, 25%. But I like that though, and I think that should be where the benchmark lies, right? It should be something quite high to allow that, because I was thinking like the protein yogurts that I've started having that are vegan, 15 grams solid, like good
That's
high
great.
protein content. You should be able to put high protein on that, right? 7 grams, no, you can't call that protein.
I mean, it definitely
Protein
feels
snack.
like under 15 is like kind of sad. Maybe like under 12 is kind of sad. But I think it depends on the product. I talk about this so much with my clients. Like if you're eating a protein bar or choosing a protein bar, I want a majority of your calories in that protein bar coming from protein.
I think that's the problem with protein bars though, because the ones that taste good usually have a lot more calories because there's a lot more sugar and stuff in them
Yeah,
to make
'cause they're
them
candy
taste
bars.
good. Yeah, because protein bars on the whole are pretty awful, right? Like if you compared it to eating a Snickers, you'd eat the Snickers because that tastes good. Whereas I think a lot of these products are pretty rank.
Right.
Yeah, I think over 15, I think is going to be my very generic. If it's under
I
that,
know it's hard. It
I think-
depends.
yeah,
It depends,
yeah.
right? So I think it's interesting to see how much like the protein slapped on every package steers the combo away from like actual benefits and makes protein feel trendy when it just shouldn't even be. It should just be good. It's like fiber. It's like you need it.
Yeah.
It's good. And I think and this is something I sat on just for a few days as I was thinking about this episode. I think that there's a little damage done too with this like proteinification of everything. And I think back to one of the first episodes we recorded was about the culture, like the whitewashing of cultural foods to be health foods, right? And I think diet trends often overlook cultural foods, and I think that feels really, really true in this current context. So I think of Mexican food. I live in Mexico. I eat mostly like very traditional Mexican diet because that's just where we live and stuff. A lot of
It's
meat, a lot of
also
seafood,
delicious,
corn, beans,
so
and
why wouldn't you?
it's the best,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Meat, seafood, corn, beans. We don't need protein bars. But I have in the last 2-ish years seen those entering the markets a lot more. And then, okay, I don't want to like hate on a brand, but I fear I have no choice here. Michael, have you seen the David protein bar? Like this is a new David protein bar.
Is this the fish, right?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the fish. I thought it was a joke, Michael. I thought it was like The Onion or a Saturday Night Live skit. There's a new brand of protein bar called the David. I haven't tried one. I don't have access to one. I've heard mixed reviews. This isn't about the bar. David, their whole shtick is like the marketing is like Michelangelo's David, like the perfect man. Protein. Again, manly, right?
So gross, isn't it? Just like saying it out loud is just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's
Just
kind of
really
ick.
icky.
I
Yeah.
think the branding's pretty smart. Like it's sleek and it looks nice and whatever. But this brand is selling boiled cod, frozen boiled cod, $55 for 4 6-ounce pieces. That is $36 a pound for frozen boiled cod. And they have positioned it as like, this is the elite protein source. And it's like, okay, that's a great protein source. That's also what people have been eating all over the world just forever. It's also what I, as a college student, would pick up from Costco because the giant bag of boiled cod was cheap protein.
Exactly. How much was it per pound when you
I
were
don't
buying
know.
it?
I mean, like, I actually, you better believe I ran some numbers. Like, $8 per pound would be a pretty normal amount, not even wholesale, like in a normal market. I found at the highest $17 per pound for like premium sourced, wild caught, fair label stuff. Boiled cod is a really normal food. It's just a really economical protein choice, but now we have it as like this elite protein. And this is not what protein intake has to look like. That's what I want my takeaway to be. I don't care about this brand. I'm not trying to bash them. What do I know?
I am. I hate them.
It's just I love that. It just doesn't have to mean expensive supplements, and making sure that your chips have protein in them too, right? Like it doesn't have to be like that. Let's talk about how to actually meet our protein needs in a sustainable way that doesn't leave us kind of like getting lost in the weeds. So it is not that these proteinified foods are useless. They're absolutely not. They're just typically more costly. They may not have a significant amount of protein. And if we're replacing whole foods with processed protein snacks, we're probably limiting our dietary diversity, which is the opposite of what we want to do. So it's not to say these are bad, because they're not. And neither is supplementing our protein intake. But if we want to meet our protein needs in a way that actually supports our health and performance and sustainability, we're probably not going to get there via protein cereal. Like that's not the avenue necessarily. So we know complete proteins are important. We talked about that earlier. We can get these complete proteins from animal sources and combinations of plant sources. And you don't have to think too hard about this or make sure you're combining sources exactly. Like that is an unnecessary mental load. What about supplements? Supplements versus whole foods. Supplements are just that. They're a supplement. They're meant to close gaps where we can't get them from whole foods or from food sources. So whey and plant-based protein powders can be absolutely useful. There are several scenarios in which I'm suggesting these for my clients. If it's tough to eat post-workout because you don't have much of an appetite, but you need to get some nutrition in. If you're struggling to eat enough, so we know what liquid calories will help. If you're traveling or out of routine and we know protein will be lower and it will help to like close that gap, there's a lot of scenarios in which I typically recommend protein shake or maybe a bar as a snack, that helps us go into a meal out, not starving, things like that. But supplements shouldn't be the foundation of our protein intake. And whole food proteins, eggs, fish, chicken, tofu, yogurt, beans, all of it, they come with more vitamins and more minerals and more fiber, which we know is important, especially in the case of plant-based foods, that a powder can't necessarily replicate. So where do you stand on supplementation, Michael? Do you recommend?
So I use a protein supplement nearly every day. I follow like a very heavily plant-based diet because I can't eat eggs or dairy. So there's many days that I don't eat any animal products at all. And I think they can be a really handy, high quality, efficient way of eating protein. And probably most of my clients use them, maybe not completely all the time, but have them in their rotation, even for like the days where maybe protein from their diet is quite lacking. And I think the point you made there about getting so obsessed about nailing your macronutrient intake, it's so easy to overlook a lot of your micronutrient need too. And the amount of times that you'll see people like weighing out their rice and chicken, and then you realize, oh, actually you've had hardly any fiber or vegetables or anything around hitting those big goals that you have. So yeah, I love a protein supplement. There's many out there that are complete nonsense that you shouldn't go near. But if you do it right and you choose the right one, then yeah, absolutely, they can be a really good addition to the diet routine. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was going to talk about collagen here, but I'm going to put it in the resources so we can keep moving on. I'm sorry. It's from KateLymanNutrition.com. Resource. But it's only because Kenny did
episode, can we link to something on your blog?
Kenny did like a research review on it. I feel like an idiot. Okay, so the same Cargill report I referenced earlier that talked about increased protein focus in the industry in recent years also highlighted that, not surprisingly, that has meant an increase in meat intake. And this is an area where I think, Michael, it's hard for you and I not to get over our personal opinions. We're both really conscious of the environmental impact of meat, especially beef and lamb. And we have a whole episode where we go into that. But my personal take is I do believe we can hit our protein targets in ways that do take sustainability into account. Leaning a bit more on poultry and fish and eggs for those who can consume them, soy, legumes, dairy, while being mindful of how much red meat we're actually eating. So how do we get more protein without going overboard? Here are a few practical things that I'm always telling my clients and I think may be helpful for those listening as well. First thing first, start with breakfast. Breakfast is usually the lowest protein meal of the day, and bumping your protein intake up in breakfast makes a huge difference. There's a paper I've referenced a few times in this article, and it's from the Journal of Applied Physiology, Nutrition, and Metabolism, and it discussed how adding more protein to breakfast is the simplest method to increase protein intake in older adults, but has also been shown to reduce unhealthy snacking behavior in younger adults at the same time, which is probably due to satiety, but that's pretty cool, right?
That's really cool. I like that.
we can aim for, 20 to 30 grams at each meal. Don't stress about that number, but more so an identifiable amount of protein at each meal. I think if you are looking at a meal and you're like, what's my protein source here? And you can't spot it, it's probably not enough. And that is shown to improve appetite control and satiety and weight management. And it's more than just like muscle. Third thing, remember that the little things add up. I know we just bashed like 7 grams of protein in a popcorn, but here I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how mushrooms and leafy greens and grains and beans all contribute, and they don't have a super high protein intake. That's where our 15 grams backfires, Michael.
Maybe this should.
I take it back.
Yeah. We need. There's a way we can qualify this. I'm gonna
sure.
brainstorm. Yeah.
Yeah, think about it. Well, I joke a lot on my Instagram stories that I eat a high protein baguette, and it's just because I eat a whole baguette every day, and so it is 30 grams of protein.
True. I love that. Yeah,
but it's not. It's because I eat 30 grams of protein, but like 150 carbs of baguette. Like it's not actually high protein, but those little things add up. You don't have to eat a whole baguette, but like, it adds up.
I would recommend eating a whole baguette. It's delicious. Yeah.
I live next to a bakery. Like you can't fault me for that. If you're plant-based, keep in mind that many protein sources also double as carb sources. Not a bad thing, just a thing. It just means being intentional about variety. Where does this all leave us? Protein is important. Hopefully that's been a good takeaway. No one's arguing otherwise, but it's not magic, and chasing protein grams is not the metric of health that sometimes it's made out to be. The goal in our diet is not to eat as much protein as humanly possible. The goal is to get enough to support your health and performance and longevity without turning every meal into like a protein hack, right? Mm-hmm. For most of us, that looks like prioritizing more whole food protein sources, adding moderate supplementation when it makes sense, and staying attuned to what may be a marketing gimmick versus what may actually be supportive to our goals. I haven't meant to bash protein chips because I'm not actually bashing them. I think that can be great. I think that can be a way to add protein to a snack and to like get a little more where you can't. I've never had them though, so maybe they're not good. I don't know. Michael's making a face.
I've not had them, but the thought of them is just like,
nah. But it's like, let's just take that into context of the broader dietary patterns we're following. Mm-hmm. And when you're staring at products on a grocery shelf store, I think a question to ask is like, is protein here actually useful, or is it just marketing? Mm-hmm. Like a protein bar after a workout or a scoop of powder in a smoothie, that makes sense. Protein cookies, protein Pop-Tarts that kind of just taste like cardboard, that's probably not moving the needle in a meaningful way. And it's also potentially taking joy out of food that should bring joy because you feel the need to healthify everything. Ultimately, protein needs to be seen in the context of our overall dietary choices, and it's not an isolation. It's not a badge of honor. It doesn't make you masculine versus not. And I think the irony here, which you've touched on, Michael, is that while we obsess over protein, what we're most deficient in as a population is fiber. Mm-hmm. It's fiber, it's fruits, veggies, dietary diversity. So like, give protein the respect it deserves, but like, don't let it distract from the other pieces of nutrition that matter just as much, if not more.
Love it.
That was it.
Yeah. Good job, Kate. I liked it.
Thanks. I think there's a lot to think on here. Like I still have a lot to think on. Like, are we overestimating our needs? Are we drawing away attention from other areas that could use attention in our diet? But also, are we like spending too much mental energy on this idea of protein when I'm not saying we spend the mental energy on anything else. I'm saying we relieve mental energy from the thought of food itself. I don't know, stuff to think on. But thank you everyone for bearing with me here. Thank you for listening. And as always, we appreciate all the conversations that come up from our episodes. I love when our episodes come out and we continue conversations in DMs or emails or whatever. So as always, if you have other questions, if you have feedback or thoughts, we'd love to hear it. And again, we'd love for you to leave a review, share the episode, or subscribe.
See you all in a couple of weeks.
Talk soon.